What's on, guys? This is Mr. DeLorian with a brand new video, and today what we'll be doing is breaking down episode 5 of season 5 of Fear the Walking Dead, and let's hop right into the breakdown. Now, this episode only has one major plotline, and that plotline is basically Al and where she's been for the past, couple of episodes. So let's start with the breakdown. So the episode starts with Al being dragged away from the plane that she was tased at and everything in episode 1 by that suspicious and really weird armored person. So Al ends up waking up at a camp and everything where she looks over and basically sees the armored person burning the other the body of the dead armored person that Al pinned basically down in episode 1. So Al kind of looks around wondering where the hell she is, because I'd be wondering the exact same. And she sees all of this going down or anything, and she ends up looking over, sees her camera bag, runs and grabs the camera bag, and basically starts running in the other direction right into the woods. The armored lady sees this and starts running after her, but she's also very far behind Al. Al ends up basically falling down and everything a ton of times, and eventually the armored lady catches up to her, points a gun at her, pushes her over, but then Al ends up flipping her hand up and knocking the lady's or the armored person's mask over and revealing it's basically a lady and everything, or someone around Al's age and basically armor. Hours pass and it's basically turns to daytime, and Al's all tied up inside this little kind of truck. And basically what happens is Al lures a walker over from the barbed wire fence that's surrounding the car and basically this entire place, and she basically gets the barbed wire, cuts her way out of the rope that's tying her to the car. She grabs her bag, runs into more farther into the barbed wire's compound, and adds after a couple of minutes of running around and everything, she eventually pushes through some blinds and ends up finding what it is, the helicopter that took Rick back in episode 5 of season 9 of The Walking Dead. And she ends up seeing the chopper there, and she walks up to it and she's like, oh my god, this is a chopper, we can use it to get to where we need to go. But then she gets into the chopper, she hears some voices over the radio, she tries to contact them, but then she hears a gun clock to her back of her head and everything, and it's the lady and everything basically pointing the gun to her head. She says, get out, don't say anything to the people over the radio, you don't want to. Al basically gets out, the lady threatens her, basically saying, you better not do that again, or you're gonna die. And she has been talking to the people over the radio and basically says, just send in some people because we have no fuel inside the plane. So they kind of end up talking, I guess, bickering back and forth and thing, and she ends up saying to Al, where's the tape that you took of my fellow or used to be colleague and everything, since now he's now dead. Al basically says, you tell me a story, and because obviously Al's always after the stories, and I will show you where the tape is. But the girl doesn't fall for him, basically pushes Al to go find her the tape. So they go into the woods to find the tape, but eventually Al just gets to her and everything, and she pushes Al over again and everything, kind of I don't even want to say breaks her leg, but kind of stomps on her leg. But Al takes a boss and everything, and doesn't get phased at all and everything, and they kind of hash out a little bit a deal that if Al helps her get fuel for the helicopter and everything, and then shows her where the tape is, she'll give her a story. So they kind of agree on that deal and everything, and they end up going and finding a car to basically drive to go find fuel that's at the top of this mountain that the lady reveals. So they start driving, and eventually while on the road and they're kind of talking, Al ends up saying, okay, what's your name at least? Tell me at least the bare minimum of what the big story that I need to know. And the lady ends up not talking to her at all, and it's actually pretty funny, and the lady just doesn't talk or respond to her at all. And Al ends up giving her kind of, I guess you could say, a nickname or kind of a name until she finds out what her actual name is, which is Happy, because obviously the lady looks very, distraught and not even happy at all. But while they're driving on the road, a huge rock slide ends up happening that basically knocks a ton of rocks, not big rocks, and they could drive over it, but rocks into the road. So a bunch of walkers are basically now on the road, I think, because they were on top of the rocks that caused the rocks to come down. Al and the lady basically get out of the car. The lady says to Al, stay back because I don't want you getting hurt or whatever. But Al obviously says, I don't take orders from anyone. I'll take orders from you, not anyone. So the lady says, okay, fine, if you're not going to at least listen to me, at least take my armor or anything, so you don't get, because if you get bit or whatever, it won't pierce through the armor. So Al takes the armor, puts it on, and they go kill the walkers. But then while they are killing the walker, finishing up killing all the walkers and everything, another rock slide happens, basically semi-crushing their truck and everything that they were driving. Al realizes that the camera's in the car. She goes, runs over, grabs the camera, but while she's doing this and everything, checking the camera, a walker emerges from the dirt and everything, kind of bites her, but doesn't get her or pierce through the arm or whatever, and kind of Al goes, and everything, because she's scared. I don't think she's ever been, or anyone's really in the show rarely has ever been, but not actually been or whatever. So the lady runs over to her, saves her, kills the walker, and gets kind of angry at her, saying, what if you didn't have that armor and everything? They kind of kind of hash out their like little like, you know, feud. But then she takes Al's bag and everything and says, what's so important about this like camera or whatever? Why does it mean so much to you? She basically takes the camera and everything, finds a tape in there, and she says, you've had the tape this whole time. But Al says it's a different tape, not the tape that you're looking for. But then she ends up putting the tape into the camera, watching it, and it reveals some backstory about Al, which is basically Al was a kind of reporter, obviously and everything before the apocalypse, but it shows Al before the apocalypse reporting on the National Guard versus the Army, and also revealing that she had a brother that died during that exact time on that exact tape. So Al obviously visibly kind of, I guess you could say, very sad and angry and everything, takes the camera, takes the tape and everything, starts walking off from the lady, and the lady obviously feels a bit bad and everything, since she seems a bit like an asshole now, since she basically just like did all that and everything and made her angry. She runs after Al, and eventually they go fight, like search through some cars, and then nighttime comes and they grab a tent, string it up into a tree, and basically spend the night in a tent up in a tree. So fast forward to the morning, like the morning after like all this and everything, and they are basically rock climbing. They're like mid-mountain or anything, rock climbing on the mountain or anything to get to the top to go find fuel. And they do have some troubles getting up that mountain. I will tell you, they have some motherfucking troubles. So while climbing and everything, they end up coming across a walker that's stuck on the mountain or anything, because it was a walker that died like rock climbing and everything, and it's mid kind of mountain, like kind of similar to how they are. So while the army lady is trying to get past the walker, she ends up falling, but luckily saved by the fact that she's also caught in the same line that Al is and everything, so she's basically hanging while Al's still on like the rock cling for her life. So the lady's kind of swinging there, and Al kind of realizes what she has to do. She has to actually like cut her fears and everything, and go up to the walker and hook her line up to the walker's line, because the walker's line is actually like better, you know, hooked onto like the rocks and everything, and actually goes and leads to like the top of the mountain. So eventually Al like latches on her thing, and they get to the top of the mountain. They lay down and everything because they're obviously all tired and very stressed and everything, that they almost died. But then the lady reveals that she killed her partner, the one that like, you know, was like burned and then spiked and everything by Alan or everything, and just all that. She reveals that she killed him because he blew protocol, and that's what they're supposed to do in the community and everything, when they blow protocol, to not blow protocol and everything. It's a bunch of whole like confusing roles. But then Al kind of realizes that the lady is going to have to kill her and everything, so she could follow protocol, because she has to kill, you know, people that she finds that could possibly ruin their future. So Al realizes this and ends up taking the lady's gun, pinning her to the ground and everything, and basically saying, "You're not killing me. I will not let that happen. You're going to help me and my friends." So it turns to kind of night, and they're both like sitting behind a fire and everything, drinking some beer, talking about some stories and everything. And this scene is actually, I like it. Fuck, I'm getting into the review. So they like basically sit around the fire and everything and just talk about stuff, and then it turns to morning again, and the lady wakes up Al. Well, actually, there's some pretty like important information shared on the fires, that the name of the lady, or the armored lady, is actually Isabella. That's definitely an important piece of information. So they end up hiking down to the from the mountain, I think, with all the fuel that they have, and Al basically shows the lady where the tape is. The lady takes the tape, destroys it, but then because of protocol and because Al forgot, the lady basically says, "I have to kill you," points the gun to her head while Al's turned around, and Al ends up taking out the tape of her brother, or like when she was reporting of the National Guard versus the Army and everything, and about her brother and everything. She basically hands it to the lady and says, "I want to make sure that this lives on," or whatever, or that his story lives on. She hands it to the lady, or Isabella, and Isabella kind of like seems very like kind of saddened by this moment or anything, because she's like, "Oh crap, now that I realize what I've done or anything, and I have to stop this." So she kind of pulls the gun away from Al's head and basically says, "I don't want you to die and everything, I want you to live." So Al turns around, they kind of have like a moment, like actually probably the closest moment they had all episode, where they're not pointing guns at each other, nor like, you know, just cursing at each other or having a fight. Then they both kind of, I guess, like kiss or whatever, and then they kind of have, like I said, like a closer moment than they had the entire episode and everything. They kind of have a really big moment, and then they kind of, I guess, go their separate ways, and basically Al swears an oath, I guess you could say, to not tell anybody or about like where she's from or anything about her, or that she even met her in the first place. So they both go their separate ways. The lady refuels her chopper, flies off and everything, and that's kind of where, like, you know, like the chopper goes off, and that's where like the chopper flew like away in like the last episode. So the lady flies away, and Al is basically alone sitting against a tree. She radios to Morgan and Alicia with a radio that was given to her by the lady. So Morgan and Alicia go and find Al kind of against the tree and everything. They basically kind of, and actually while they come over and everything, they have all the kids with them and everything that were with, like, you know, them in like the last episode. So they all kind of reunite. Morgan basically says where were, like, they all kind of like hug and everything. They're all smiling, laughing. But Morgan says where, like, what happened or everything, because you said there was a story. And Al basically lies to him because of the oath she swears to Isabella, and basically says there was no story. I just got chased away from a herd and everything. And they kind of like laugh at her and everything. And the episode basically ends there. So kind of moving on to the review portion of this episode. This episode was actually a lot better than I thought it would be, mainly because I never thought, actually honestly before this episode, well, in season 4 she was really interesting actually, but then season 5 I was kind of like, she's not that interesting. But this episode kind of revived the interestingness of her, and I guess I could kind of actually suspend my idea of her not being interesting in season 5 for the fact that she's only been in 2 episodes so far. So yeah, she's back to being an interesting like character and everything. The chemistry she had with Isabella was actually pretty interesting. I really liked it. So everything about this episode is really good. It was a very, I guess you could say, I'm not sure if this is the right word, but it was a very melancholy, very calm episode. But other than that, it's a very good episode. A lot of like eventful stuff and cool stuff happened. So yeah, if you guys saw the episode, make sure to leave your opinions down below on it. Make sure to leave your opinions down below on my opinions. And yep, I'll see you guys later. Peace, my amigos, and peace out.